Welcome to The Other Side, Mississippi Today's political podcast. The Other Side lets you hear directly from the most connected players and observers across the spectrum of politics in Mississippi. From breaking news to political strategy to interviews with candidates and elected officials, we'll bring you facts, perspectives, and context that helps you cut through the noise and understand all sides of the story.
I'm Geoff Pender. I'm joined here today with my colleagues, Bobby Harrison.
Hey, Geoff.
And Taylor Vance.
Hey, Geoff. How's it going?
Hey, guys. Anyway, I guess one topic that has come up over the last week or so. Last couple of weeks, and actually has come up year after year in recent years.
That's true, too.
Tax cuts, the potential for the elimination of the state income tax. House Speaker Jason White has made clear he wants to, carry on the push that his predecessor, Philip Gunn, did to eventually eliminate the income tax. And he's, I believe, formed a select committee. And Bobby, tell us a little bit about what the plan is there.
Well, it sounds a lot like the first plan that his predecessor, Speaker Philip Gunn, introduced in, I guess, the 2021 session, which would be to phase out the personal income tax, make a significant cut to the state sales tax on groceries. Just for background, as we've talked about before many times, Mississippi has the highest sales tax on groceries of statewide tax of any state in the nation. And then he also talked about sort of a three-part plan would be to provide an additional tax source of revenue for the Department of Transportation or for roads and bridges because of 18-cent tax on a gallon of gasoline is not providing the revenue needed to build new roads and bridges. So there's kind of a three-pronged proposal. Thank you, that he put forward, and he formed a select committee to look at that during the off session, and I guess to make recommendations for the 2025 session. Taylor wrote about who's on that select committee this past week. So what do you think of the select committee, Taylor?
Yeah, well, I'm sort of getting a little bit of deja vu from 2022. A little bit.
That was your first session?
That was my first session to cover. I was just a little cub reporter for the Daily Journal and trying to compete with two punks named Bobby Harrison and Geoff Pender. But yes, that was my first session, and I, correct me if I'm wrong. I think that during the off season that year there was a joint hearing, a joint committee with the House and the Senate, and I'm a little disappointed that we're not getting a joint committee this go round, because if you remember, it led to a pretty interesting debate between State Senator Hobb Bryan and Grover Norquist, who came to testify.
Right.
And Senator Bryan asked him if you could shrink Mississippi government down to the size where you could drown it in a bathtub, and I don't think he appreciated that question too much. But at any rate, yes, the Speaker White announced there was a select committee of House members co-chaired by Trey Lamar, who's the Ways and Means chairman, or as I like to call it, the Ways to be Mean chairman, a Republican from Senatobia, and then Scott Bounds, who's a Republican from Philadelphia, will kind of co-lead that committee. And I think I was kind of counting here. I think there was about 10 Republicans, about 4 Democrats, I think, and independent representative serving on that committee. And we don't really know the specifics of when the committee will meet, who will come and testify before the committee, but I think they will have some type of hearing either in this summer or in the fall, where they will sort of, I guess, begin to solidify or coalesce around a proposal to reduce state taxes.
Bobby, I know details, it sounds like, are pending with this committee and all, but the speaker's already mentioned some things similar to what was proposed before. That would include, I guess, shifting some of the tax burden from income tax to sales tax.
Right. Yeah. It gets kind of confusing because he's talking about reducing the sales tax on groceries,
Right.
but perhaps increasing that tax on the sales tax on other retail items, which was part of Speaker Gunn's proposal that Trey Lamar, who Taylor mentioned as one of the co-chairs of this select committee. Trey Lamar was very active and a leader in Speaker Gunn's effort too. He was Ways and Means chairman under Speaker Gunn also. But Speaker White made some. I mean, I think he kind of gave the impression he was just kind of leaving it open to how to reach those goals to look at some new areas. He talked about actually reducing the sales tax overall for the state, but at the same time giving local governments an option to impose a sales tax on their own. So right now, local governments get 18% of the sales tax collected within its borders, but maybe that proposal would be to take away that 18%, but give local governments the option to impose an additional sales tax on their own, if that makes sense.
And that would be a huge change, right? I mean, local option taxes have not been popular in Mississippi.
Yeah, a lot of states, I think all of our surrounding states have a local option sales tax. And because of that local option sales tax, their sales tax is actually a little bit, not on groceries, but on other items, is actually a little bit higher than the sales tax in Mississippi. We live in an area of the country where where sales tax is the highest. Most people would agree, experts would agree, that sales taxes are a regressive tax that hurts the low-income people more than the income tax does.
They're paying a higher percentage of their income, obviously, on retail.
Right.
Yeah, but we're in an area of the country where the sales tax is a popular tax, and I think
Mississippi invented the state sales tax.
That's right.
By the
Hugh
way,
White.
in the 20s.
Yeah, Hugh White. I think it was, wasn't it?
I believe so.
Yeah, was governor at the time.
On the local option thing, one thing I've heard opponents of that say is that it allows more populous areas, such as like Flowood, for instance, or they'll be essentially taxing people outside their borders. People are going to drive in from more rural areas.
Yeah.
And things getting skewed there, and such a tax would be, I guess, potentially heavier on rural areas that wouldn't be getting any of the money back.
Yeah, we've all Taylor mentioned Hob Bryan, Senator Hob Bryan from Amory a while ago. We've all heard Hob Bryan make that argument multiple times. He makes the argument that people from Amory, which is his hometown, would be driving into Tupelo to help subsidize roads and bridges and services in Tupelo.
Yeah.
So that's an argument against the local sales tax.
It's funny. I remember a few years ago that Lee County in Northeast Mississippi, they wanted to have they had to ask permission. They wanted to ask permission from the legislature to have an additional local option sales tax, so they could build a new jail in the county. And the reason that one of the supervisors said, or a reason that he used to support this proposal, was the very reason that we all just kind of laid out. I remember his quote was something along the lines of, if people from Itawamba County come to Lee County and they buy a Coca-Cola, they're contributing to the Lee County jail. And people from Itawamba County did not take that too well.
Yeah.
And that effort was quickly defeated in the state legislature that year.
Yeah, and Hob Bryan, who I hate to keep on going back to Hob Bryan, but Hob Bryan helped kill that proposal.
Yes.
Even though he lives in Amory, but part of his district is Lee County, but he just believes that local option is a flawed system. Other people disagree. And we could talk about the sales tax and the grocery tax, but the effort to eliminate the personal income tax, that's been ongoing for years in Mississippi.
Right.
Governor Reeves, I guess Governor Bryant probably previous Governor Bryant probably would have been for it too. But Governor Reeves has been a leading voice for doing that. But that, you're talking about the income tax is already being reduced, based on legislation passed in 2022, not phased out, but significantly cut. But still, the income tax is I'm nearly a third of the state general fund. So you talk about eliminating the income tax, you're talking about potentially putting a real dent in state services.
Yeah, one thing should be noted: once phased in, within another year,
2026, I think.
Those that massive tax cut you're referring to being phased in is going to leave us with one of the lowest income tax rates in the country already. Correct?
Right. Yeah, it will. I think
fifth, perhaps.
There's 9 states. There's 9 states that don't have an income tax, and up to other 41 states would be the 5th lowest. Yeah. So that's it's not. I don't hear people clamoring about it reducing I hear some politicians clamoring about reducing or phasing out the income tax, but I don't hear people talking about it as much as maybe you hear people talk about the grocery tax. And in part, right now food prices are so high, and that 7% tax on groceries just kind of really makes it even worse, the high prices on groceries. Geoff, I actually found a study that I wrote about that Mississippi already has Mississippi the third most expensive state in the nation in terms of grocery prices, or how much people pay on average for groceries. I mean, California's number 1, Nevada's number 2.
And that's prices, not just tax rate.
Right. No, in California, Nevada, where it's more expensive to buy groceries, it's they don't have a tax on groceries. But Mississippi has that tax on groceries, and if you eliminate that tax on groceries, I write that we're like near the top on some of the bad lists, at the bottom on some of the good lists, and we eliminate that tax on groceries, we could go down. We wouldn't be near the top on that bad list, but so it'd be an easy thing for legislators to do to eliminate the grocery tax, and it wouldn't be nearly as expensive, as much of a impact on the state general fund as it would be to totally eliminate the income tax.
Well, Speaker White in the House, obviously, they've led the charge on income tax cuts and eliminations. However, the Senate has been a little more reticent, correct, Taylor?
That's right. Our listeners may remember during that 2022 session, the House wanted to phase out the income tax over time. Governor Reeves wanted to phase it out even quicker. Right. And the Senate really didn't want to phase it out. They just wanted to cut it a little bit. And that led to all 3 of those groups fighting a lot that session. But the Senate really held firm, and their kind of position was, if you cut a third of the budget out, how are we going to replace it? We still have a lot of problems in Mississippi. We're a poor state. Our healthcare infrastructure isn't good. Our regular just infrastructure, water, sewer, roads, isn't that great. Federal government was suing a lot of state agencies at the time. Our capital city was going through a water crisis. There were a lot of issues that needed tending to, and they really didn't think that was the best time to just cut a third of the state budget or state revenue out, and they kind of held firm, but in the end, they reached an agreement that Bobby was saying will eventually leave us with I believe a flat 4% tax on earned income over, I believe, $10,000. So all that to say, the big question will be, how does the Senate respond to this? Because at least right now, I think it is safe to predict that the House is going to likely pass some type of tax cut legislation during the 2025 session. If the Speaker has outlined it as a priority, then I would imagine that the GOP members who have a supermajority in that chamber will fall in line behind the Speaker and will go along with one of his key proposals, which will then put the ball in the Senate's court.
Yeah, 2 things. I think you're right. I think we'd agree that Speaker White in his first year in office thus far showed a real ability to get his priority through the House, his priority legislation. He's shown a lot of ability to do that, and so I think you're right about that, Taylor. And then in terms of the Senate, since that 2022 session, Delbert Hosemann, who presides over the Senate, has indicated more of an interest in reducing the grocery tax than the income tax. So
yeah, and let me, Bobby, you were touching on this earlier. One thing that sort of complicates the grocery tax a little bit is there's an 18% diversion that goes to municipalities from that, and I've talked to some mayors before who, sort of get the compassionate argument that, it may be a little cruel to tax an essential item like food. Everyone needs food. But they also like that 18% diversion because it funds city services. And so, I think for that reason, municipal leaders have sort of been opposed to reducing the grocery tax unless they get a commitment on the front end from the legislature that they will, in some shape or some capacity, make municipalities whole.
Yeah, a lot of small cities. I mean, a huge chunk of their general fund comes from the grocery store in town. You're talking about maybe not a lot of money, but it's certainly a lot to a small municipality.
Yeah, and every serious effort to eliminate the grocery tax or cut the grocery tax has included a component to provide that, to as they say, make the municipalities whole. And there's ways to do that. With there are those food sales are already being recorded by the Department of Revenue, so there's ways to make those municipalities whole. And I think sometimes the municipal leaders make that argument and just think that there's no way to make them whole or afraid of change, but that can be done. I mean, back in the 90s, I guess, or 2000s, I guess it was, Geoff, then Lieutenant Governor Amy Tuck made a major effort to either eliminate the grocery tax, and then when that failed, to cut it in half. She passed that legislation and sent it to the Governor Barber 2 different times, and he vetoed it and was able to gather the votes to sustain his veto. And that was the last serious effort to do that, or the most serious effort. And Speaker White, when Taylor and I sat in an interview with him, and he said he thought his plan could fly because he mentioned that Lieutenant Governor Hosemann had talked about reducing or eliminating the grocery tax, and the governors for phasing out the income tax. So his proposal does both those things. So he thought he'd get buy-in from. He reasoned he'd get buy-in from both the governor and the lieutenant governor. I mean, it may not be quite that simple, but
I was going to say I think Speaker White's a very, very smart politician, smart leader, but I think that's a little easier said than done, and I would push back on that claim just a little bit. I think, and we don't know the specifics of his plan, but like you said, it's very similar to, or it appears to be somewhat similar to former Speaker Philip Gunn's plan in 2022, and both of those people opposed the initial plan, and the governor is still Tate Reeves, and lieutenant governor is still Delbert Hosemann, and so I would say that's going to be easier said than done, but I'm interested to see what happens.
Yeah, Geoff, I'd venture a guess though that this plan the plan coming from the House leadership this time will not include a 2.5% increase in the tax on the sales tax on cars or on farm implements and on manufacturing equipment that got so many of those associations.
I'm guessing not. Yeah, that caused a minor uprising at least, and it should be noted, Governor Reeves, while he very much for eliminating the income tax, I think with Philip Gunn's proposal, it included an offset, or as Governor Reeves called it, a swap, and he made clear he was not for any increase in taxes, like sales taxes, even if it means a net overall decrease. So anyway, that might make that proposal more difficult.
Yeah, but the flip side of that, and I think maybe the Speaker White and his predecessor, Speaker Gunn, realized this, that if you're going to cut the grocery tax and the income tax, it's hard. It's hard to do that without finding another source of revenue to at least to offset at least some of those cuts. And so I think that's what they were trying to do. And I think it'd be real difficult to cut both those taxes without finding another source of revenue somewhere.
One other thing you touched on is perhaps in this whole debate or effort, them finding some more sustainable way to fund road and bridge work. That's not, you mentioned primarily our road and bridge work is paid for by 18.4 cents a gallon tax. That's static. You got 18.4 cents when gas was $1. You get 18.4 cents when gas is $3. You get the same amount per gallon when vehicles use 30% less gasoline. It's just fading. It's not going to keep up with inflation.
Yeah, when that gas tax was imposed, I would venture a guess that cars got averaged 12 miles per gallon.
Probably.
And now they average what? Over 20.
Right,
yeah,
right.
And you
30.
have the rise of electric vehicles.
Hybrid and electric.
Yeah. And so I mean the obvious thing to do would be come up with some indexed, perhaps a mix of use tax, take a cent of sales tax. I think Arkansas did some similar thing for its infrastructure maybe a few years back, but some way where you could keep up with inflation and the cost of maintaining roads at the very least.
Well, one thing's for sure. Speaker White and Lieutenant Governor Hoseman both have indicated that Medicaid expansion will be on the table again in the 2025 session. And with that and this tax cut, it's going to be, thinking way far ahead to January 2025. It could be a real landmark and crazy session.
Another one.
Yeah. More. I don't know. I remember that first session that I'd covered, the 2022 session. It seemed like we were waking up every day to a new press conference where either Speaker Gunn or Lieutenant Governor Hoseman was bashing the other chamber for their latest tax cut proposal. And it was a fun session to cover, but also a little bit of, an exhausting session. So I don't know if we will have that same level of infighting in the Capitol in 2025, but it'll be very interesting to see how the two chambers interact and work with each other.
Yeah.
Should be interesting. Only two things are inevitable, and one of them is taxes. The other is fighting amongst lawmakers.
Yeah.
Well, guys, appreciate your input, and we will be following up with you on these and other topics.
Yeah, appreciate it, Geoff. Taylor.
Yep.
As we cover the biggest political stories in the state, you don't want to miss an episode of The Other Side. We'll bring you more reporting from every corner of the state, sharing the voices of Mississippians and how they are impacted by the news. So what do we need from you, the listener? We need your feedback and support. If you listen to the podcast on a player like iTunes or Stitcher, please subscribe to the show and leave us a review. We also have an email in which you can share your feedback. That address is podcast@MississippiToday.org. Y'all can also reach out to me or any of my colleagues through social media or email. And as always, thank you for your feedback and support. Subscribe to our weekly podcast on your favorite podcast app or stream episodes online at MississippiToday.org/theotherside. For the Mississippi Today team, I'm Adam Ganeshow. The Other Side is produced by Mississippi Today and engineered by Blue Sky Studios. We hope you'll join us for our next episode.